Now, getting more reaction, we're joined by Professor Andre Roux, economist at Stellenbosch Business School, who joins us to further expand on this discussion. A very good evening to you, Professor Roux. Thank you for your time. I mean, as the world watches US President Donald Trump's return, uncertainty has been looming for quite some time now over the future of the international geopolitical landscape. What did you pick up from his address today? And with that, how worried should South Africa be?
Yes, good evening, and good evening to all your viewers. I think one should be worried. The general tone of the speech, the bits that I was able to listen to, was very hyperbolic. I think he's come in on a high. He could claim a fairly convincing victory in the election. His party has the majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And he's inheriting, as it were, an economy in a fairly decent shape, although it's not of his making. And I think we all know about his stance, it's mentioned repeatedly, about immigration, and also about tariffs. Now, both of these steps are bound to be inflationary. So immigrants, getting rid of immigrants, albeit perhaps illegal immigrants, means that he's getting rid of cheap labor. Now, if you consider the fact that the unemployment rate is exceptionally low, then that makes the labor market tighter and wages are bound to rise. At the same time, by imposing tariffs on imported goods, that also makes imported goods dearer. So a double whammy for inflation, which means that the slowdown in interest rates in America might be less pronounced. Now, that has an implication for South Africa and other countries, obviously, because fairly high rates in America imply potentially a fairly strong dollar, if you like, a weaker rand. So that will put question marks behind the pace of our drop in interest rates here at home. Then if we think about the looming trade war between China and America, I think we need to consider the fact that he's probably saying to himself, my enemy's friend is my enemy. And it could be that he's seeing South Africa as a friend of China, as a friend of Russia, and of course, as an enemy of Israel. Now, this calls into question AGOA. The AGOA agreement is obviously all about removing or reducing tariffs in America on imported goods. And South Africa is part of this deal. But they reserve the right to withdraw a country, to remove a country, if they feel that country is not towing the line, as it were, according to American requirements. So that could also be negative for a country like South Africa.
Do you think much has changed since Trump's first term? I mean, he came in today really speaking confidently and really setting the agenda. But how have things changed?
You mean within America or globally, or just as overall stance? Because
if we look at what policymakers and investors in South Africa and the US would consider some of the major fault lines in their bilateral relationship over the coming years.
Well, look, I think we need to be frank about these things. Africa, South Africa is not very high in the agenda. I can barely recall any real mention of South Africa or Africa in any of his election campaigns or even his victory rally last night. I don't think it's much of a big deal for him, really. But we might be caught up in the crossfire between, let's say, China and America, sort of collateral damage. And so in that sense, not much has changed, I would say. I think he probably feels he's in a stronger position than during his first term. I mean, he has come back from the ashes like a phoenix, and he's probably saying to himself, well, I told you so. You should have elected me last time as well. So in that sense, I think he's more confident. I think it's very clear that the whole America First campaign really lies at the heart of his thinking. America first, and then we'll see what happens to the rest.
As you say that a country like South Africa is not necessarily one of top priority or even high on the agenda. How vulnerable is an emerging market like South Africa to the dual threats of reflation or the re-dollarization?
I don't think we're going to see a massive increase in inflation. I think it's more about inflation might head upwards a little bit, not significantly. And as I said, that could imply that the rand would weaken unless we also slow down our interest rate cuts. The whole question about the dollar as being the major currency, obviously that will be front and center in terms of his thinking. He would hate to even think about the possibility of some kind of alternative currency. He will do his level best to prevent that. And we must be honest, I think he has lots of support. I mean, not only his economic policies, we think about his anti-wokeness. We think about, I think he suggested that from now on, there's only two sexes in America, male or female. He has said that he's going to end DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the federal government. And in so doing, he is speaking to the hearts and minds, especially the hearts, of millions and millions of people across the planet, rightly or wrongly.
Sure. And
I think what's going to be important, sorry, I was going to say what's important, an important issue is going to be his relationship with Putin.
Yes.
How he's going to deal with North Korea. That's going to be important.
Yeah. So all in all, what sort of positioning should South Africa be leaning towards in ensuring that, we're not caught on the back foot?
Yeah, I don't think we can ensure anything. We can try to mitigate any potential impacts. And I think in all fairness, we are chairing the G20 this year.
Yeah.
Surely that gives us some kind of entree into these upper level talks. And there must be some influence that the chair can exert there. And I think also in all fairness, we talk about being friendly with China, but we're friendly with many countries, not just China. So we have much broader range of trade partners these days. 20, 30 years ago, our big trade partner was Europe and America, and that was it. Now it's Europe, America, China, Brazil, Argentina, you name it. And that means we don't have all the eggs in one basket. So I don't think there's going to be any major change in these things.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing to look out for would be that AGOA membership.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for weighing in on the conversation. Leaving it there for now, Professor Andre Roux, economist at Stellenbosch Business School, joining us so to have a sense of the impact that a Donald Trump presidency could potentially have on South Africa's economy.